Back then, it took two strong men to carry a cluster of grapes, which a baby can hold in their hand today. It took two strong men with a staff to hold a cluster of grapes back in the days. So it says, "When thou tillest, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength." So who's ruling the earth today, and who's the one that fits this curse here? Go ahead.
A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth.
Right, and the so-called white man is a fugitive because all nations, the Lord jacked them up to a certain degree for what they did to us, but really he hasn't done nothing to Esau. You know, Esau is a fugitive. He's a fugitive from justice. All nations that Esau did something against, he gave them some type of reparation. Each family, like the Japanese family, they got what, $10,000 per family, something like that. And so-called Jews and gutter rats, they got money from them Germans, you know, and all different types of reparations that were given to the other nations. But here, the so-called Negroes suffered slavery under the so-called white man for over 200 some odd years, or really, you know, going on like 300-400 years. And the so-called Latin tribes, they suffered under the so-called white man. The so-called Native American Indians suffered under the so-called white man. They have received nothing, you know, because the so-called white man is a fugitive from justice. And really, they should be the ones. They should go into slavery. They should pay with their lives. That's payback, not giving people some bullshit ass paper money.
That's true justice.
That's true justice. That's right.
What you sow.
That's right. Go ahead, brother.
So Genesis 4 and the end of 12. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth.
Go ahead. And these are all characteristics of things to look for, who this particular Cain person is. Go ahead.
And Cain said unto the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear.
Go ahead.
It says, behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth. So I'll read it again. It says, and Cain said unto the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear.
Alright, right. Read, go ahead, brother. You could say a few words on that.
Right. So this is Cain, after the Lord gave him his punishment, this is Cain complaining to the Lord that his punishment is too severe. And he says, behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth.
Right.
Going into what the brother said earlier about meaning his pigment was taken away.
Right, that was part of the curse. Part of the curse was that the way that he looked. That's why I said, and Cain said unto the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Go ahead.
It says, behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth.
Right, you driven him out from the face of the earth. Why? Because all people back then were dark skinned. When the Most High cursed him with that curse, he turned a different color.
Yeah.
You know, now it doesn't say and then Cain did turn into a white man. It's not going to say that. But now, before we continue on, let's go. If you got something, you can bring it out, brother. But let's go to the book of Genesis, the 25th chapter, and the 25th verse. Because there's no place in the scriptures where they ever spoke about anybody being a different color except for Esau. There's no other scripture that says, and this, when Japheth came out, he came out yellow.
Yeah.
Or he came out like a white boy. Didn't say nothing like that because none of that shit happened.
Right.
Go ahead, brother.
Genesis 25 and 25. And the first came out red all over like an hairy garment.
Right, it says, and the first came out red all over like an hairy garment. Go ahead.
And they call his name Esau.
So now the first, which is the Esau, he came out red. Now, this is not talking about a red heifer or a red goat, or because when you look at these animals that are red, they look kind of brownish. They call it a red heifer, or they call it a red whatever, and they look kind of brownish. But that's not what this is saying. It says, and the first came out red all over like an hairy garment. It didn't say that it came out hairy all over like an animal. He said he came out red all over like an hairy garment. Now go from there to the book of Exodus, the 25th chapter, and this is a scripture that Elder Tahar had brought out a while ago when we did the series on who is Esau, Edom, I believe it was called. And this is one of the scriptures that he had brought out to show that wasn't talking about an actual red heifer. So go ahead, brother, read that.
Which verse?
Verse 5.
Okay.
Matter of fact, start at 1.
Exodus 25 verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel that they bring me an offering of every man that giveth it willingly with his heart. Ye shall take my offering. And this is the offering which ye shall take of them, gold and silver and brass, and blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen and goat's hair, and ram skins dyed red.
And ram skins dyed red. So when it said back, and read that again in Genesis 25.
It says, and blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen and goat's hair, and ram skins dyed red.
And ram skins dyed red. Now go back to Genesis 25.
It says, and the first came out red all over like an hairy garment.
Right, and then in the ancient times, as you see here, they dyed garments red. Let me get a close-up on that. They dyed their garments red. That does not look brown. That's red. These are red garments. And then they had red dye in here, which they had another picture of another guy that was, I don't know if he was a Arab or whatever. And basically what he was doing, they showed the deep red dye that he was stamping on. And you could clearly see that it was like a real red color. Look, this is it right here. Look at the dye that he's stepping in.
Yeah.
See the dye? And now these garments that he has here, he's about to stick them in there. He hasn't stuck them in the red dye yet. But in this particular picture here, these garments had been dyed red. That's why they look redder than the ones that guy had. See? Alright, so now go back to Genesis 25.
And the first came out red all over like an hairy garment, and they call his name Esau.
So basically what Esau was a clean leper. Now let's go from there to the book of Leviticus 13 and 9. And we got a couple more scriptures, and we're going to close this lesson out. Leviticus chapter 13, verse 9 to the 17th verse.
Okay, Leviticus 13 verse 9. When the plague of leprosy is in a man, then he shall be brought unto the priest. And the priest shall see him, and behold, if the rising be white in the skin, and if it be turned the hair white, and it have turned the hair white, Salaki.
Okay, don't worry.
And there be a quick raw flesh in the rising.
Because Esau has raw flesh in the rising. That's why when they go into the sun, they get all type of skin cancer. You see all type of stuff coming up on their skin because they're not done. They're not well done. They're not right. That's why the sun tears their ass up. You know. Go ahead.
Yeah, can I read that verse again?
Yeah, go ahead.
And the priest shall see him, and behold, if the rising be white in the skin, and it have turned the hair white, and there be a quick raw flesh in the rising.
Right, because basically the so-called white man, their flesh is raw. It's not done. That's why they don't have no color. And the color that they have, which is red, it's the blood that's in their body showing forth through their skin. Like that's why they call it red, like raw meat. When you see raw meat don't look pretty. It looks red, but then you cook it, then it turns brown. Go ahead.
Verse 11. It is an old leprosy in the skin of his flesh, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean, and shall not shut him up, for he is unclean.
Go ahead.
And if a leprosy break out abroad in the skin, and the leprosy cover all the skin of him that hath the plague, from his head even to his foot, wheresoever the priest looketh, then the priest shall consider, and behold, if the leprosy have covered all his flesh, he shall pronounce him clean that hath the plague. It is all turned white. He is clean.
Right, so Esau is a clean leper. Go ahead.
It says, but when raw flesh appeareth in him, he shall be unclean.
Go ahead.
And the priest shall see the raw flesh, and pronounce him to be unclean.
Go ahead.
For raw flesh is unclean. It is a leprosy.
And that's Esau, raw flesh. Go ahead.
Or if the raw flesh turn again, and be changed into white, he shall come unto the priest, And the priest shall see him, and behold, if the plague be turned into white, then the priest shall pronounce him clean that hath the plague,